What happens when one of the smallest naval forces in the Americas dares to challenge the most powerful navy on Earth? Recently, tensions flared near Venezuela's coast as U.S. vessels confronted ships suspected of smuggling narcotics. Caracas called it an attack on sovereignty. Washington said it was law enforcement. But behind this clash lies a bigger question. How could Venezuela, with such limited naval strength, feel bold enough to stand up to the U.S. Navy? Some point to China, the rising power, eager to project influence into the Caribbean, America's own backyard. But as we'll see, that support may be more illusion than substance. And when we compare the navies of the United States and Venezuela side by side, the imbalance is not just stark, it's overwhelming. To understand the scale of this matchup, let's start with the United States. The U.S. Navy is not just a national force, it is a global institution. With over 290 deployable ships, it sails across every ocean, backed by alliances, bases, and logistics hubs worldwide. At the heart of its power are 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, each a floating city capable of launching up to 90 advanced aircraft. These carriers are escorted by cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships, forming the legendary Carrier Strike Group, a self-contained warfighting machine. Beyond sheer numbers, there is unmatched technology. The Aegis combat system, the Virginia-class submarines, armed with Tomahawk missiles, and the F-35C stealth fighters that dominate the skies. The U.S. Navy doesn't just fight Warzite Project's power, ensures freedom of navigation, and guarantees America's role as the guardian of global trade routes. Decades of combat from the Pacific in World War II to the Persian Gulf and beyond have forged a Navy with not just equipment, but experience. And that matters more than any parade or propaganda. When the U.S. deploys a carrier group, it's not just showing the flag, it's moving an entire war front wherever it chooses. Now, let's look at Venezuela. The Bolivarian Navy of Venezuela is modest at best. It fields a handful of aging frigates, several corvettes, patrol boats, and a few diesel-powered submarines, many of them based on older European designs. These vessels are adequate for coastal defense, counter-smuggling operations, and a setting presence in the Caribbean, but they lack long-range capability, advanced radar, and modern missile systems. Their reach is regional. Their endurance is limited. Their training, constrained by budget cuts and economic collapse, cannot compare to professionalized Western navies. So why the bravado? Why risk confrontations with U.S. vessels patrolling international waters under drug interdiction missions? Caracas claims sovereignty. But analysts suggest another reason. Venezuela feels emboldened by its ties to outside powers, particularly China. China has long sought to expand influence in Latin America through loans, trade, and limited arms sales. Venezuela, isolated by sanctions and political turmoil, eagerly accepted Beijing's hand. Chinese-made patrol vessels, radar systems, and small arms have flowed into Caracas. Chinese diplomats often voice support for Venezuela's resistance against U.S. pressure. But here's the reality. China's support is symbolic, not strategic. Beijing has not committed warships to defend Venezuela. It has not deployed submarines to the Caribbean. It has not risked its own navy in direct confrontation with the United States on Venezuela's behalf. The backing Venezuela claims is more shadow than shield. China gains political leverage and headlines. Venezuela gains the illusion of a great power standing behind it. But illusions don't sink ships. And illusions don't protect coastal patrol craft against American destroyers. Support in speeches and weapons sales is not the same as support on the battlefield. The flashpoint came when U.S. ships intercepted vessels near Venezuelan waters suspected of transporting narcotics. Washington argued this was part of its ongoing counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean aimed at stopping drug flows to North America. Venezuela denounced it as aggression. But here's the uncomfortable truth. U.S. action was entirely within its power projection capability. With ships equipped with Aegis radar, helicopters overhead, and the backing of international intelligence networks, the U.S. Navy can track, intercept, and if needed, neutralize targets with overwhelming precision. For Venezuela, the incident was a reminder that its navy is small, aging, and poorly supplied cannot credibly challenge America's maritime supremacy. Yet, The political narrative in Caracas tried to spin it as defiance, with China's shadow invoked as reassurance. But the question lingers. When push comes to shove, would China actually intervene to defend Venezuelan waters? History and logic both suggest the answer is no. Let's place the two forces side by side. Aircraft carriers. U.S. Navy. 11 nuclear-powered carriers. Venezuela. Menos 0 destroyers and cruisers. Us. Over 90. Aegis-equipped warships. Venezuela. Fewer than 10 major surface combatants, mostly outdated submarines. U.S. More than 60 nuclear-powered attack submarines. Venezuela 2 diesel-electric subs with limited range. Global presence U.S. operates in every ocean with bases worldwide. Venezuela confined to regional waters in the Caribbean. Combat experience. U.S. generations of wartime operations. Venezuela limited coastal patrol and internal missions. The disparity is staggering. This is not David versus Goliath. It's David without the sling, facing a giant armed with an arsenal of modern weapons. So what do we learn from this comparison? First, Venezuela's naval bravado is less about its own strength and more about political theater. By invoking China's backing, Caracas creates the image of standing tall against the United States. But in reality, Beijing's support is distant, cautious, and unlikely to materialize in a real confrontation. Second, America's naval dominance is not just about numbers, it's about credibility. The U.S. Navy has proven time and again that it can operate, fight, and win anywhere in the world. Its systems are integrated, its logistics global, and its allies numerous. Third, illusions can be dangerous. By overestimating the weight of Chinese support, Venezuela risks miscalculations that could end in disaster. A single U.S. destroyer backed by carrier air power could overwhelm the entire Venezuelan fleet in hours. That is the sobering reality. Power is not what you claim in speech, it is what you can sustain in conflict. At the end of the day, the Venezuelan Navy remains a coastal force, capable of patrolling its waters, but not of challenging the U.S. globally or even regionally. Its defiance is fueled less by ships and sailors than by rhetoric and external illusions. The U.S. Navy, on the other hand, stands as the undisputed master of the seas. Its reach, its technology, and its experience. It should that when challenges arise, whether in the Caribbean, the Pacific, or anywhere else, CIT responds with overwhelming superiority. China's shadow may loom in political speeches, but on the water, when steel meets salt, it is American carriers, cruisers, and submarines that rule the waves. So, what do you think? Is Venezuela truly a naval threat or just a pawn relying on the illusion of Chinese support? Could Beijing ever risk its navy to defend Caracas? Or will the U.S. remain unchallenged in the Western Hemisphere? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more in-depth analysis. And join me next time as we uncover the stories behind the weapons shaping our world.